All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once again to our live stream. This is Friday. Um, Happy Friday.
Happy
Nice.
Friday, everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I know I said it before, but we're on quarantine. Everyone is locked down, but hey, Friday is still Friday. And for those of us who are still working in some capacity, it's Friday, the weekend is here. Hope you guys had a great week. I had a great week. Mr. Wong, how was your week, sir?
My week is going pretty well. I was just going over the commission accounts that are coming in. Sales has been going really nice actually. Despite the fact that we're in a quarantine, our members are really growing. My goodness. I was just, you and I were just talking about these shopping spree. We are having more and more people qualify for our shopping spree, uh,
Mhm.
trip. That is hopefully, if the condition will improve, hopefully we can take everybody to Paris this July or August. That's the
That'd be
goal.
awesome. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'll be. Can you imagine a bunch of you guys in Paris shopping, going to Louis Vuitton, Chanel store?
that's
That's
right.
gonna be a lot of fun.
That's right.
Yeah. So for any of our members, if you guys haven't qualified yet, you still have time. You only need what 500,000 in terms of our sales volume. So
That's it.
I know a lot of you guys are just like right on the edge. So we're nice to be in Paris on a shopping trip with the CEO, our founder and executive leader, Mr. Jason Wang, our vice chair, Mr. Jingao, and all on the crew. So it'll be awesome, man. So if you guys haven't qualified yet, do everything you can in the next couple of months to get on that trip. But you mentioned something, Mr. Wang, which I noticed also in terms of membership. It's a steady growth.
That's right.
And we definitely appreciate all of our members. You guys love us as much as we love you guys. You guys are loyal to the company and vice versa. So we appreciate every single one of you. But yeah, to see the steady growth like this is very beautiful. I mean, I'm very, very happy for our members and everyone that's involved with what we're doing.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, with that being said, let's get the show going.
Yeah,
We
let's get
have
it started. So everyone, I'm thinking everyone right now on this live stream or anyone that could hear my voice have either read the book Rich Dad Poor Dad or I've heard about it in some way, shape, or form, right? This is one of those books. It's like the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, right? Either you have read it or you've heard about it so many times you should have read it. Okay. It's the same thing with this book. Either you've read it or you've heard about it so many times you should have read it. And so when someone like Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, came out the other day and said, "Hey, look, you need to be in Bitcoin,"
hmm
right? And as a matter of fact, he went even further and said, "Hey, you need to be in Bitcoin to save yourself."
hmm
Now that's a heavy statement, right? And so the guy, was a military veteran, fought in Vietnam, came back from the war and realized that, hey, you know what? I need to be an entrepreneur. And from there, went on to be a billionaire right now. Okay.
hmm
So I know we keep talking about these multi-billionaires who are saying to us, hey, get in Bitcoin, get in Bitcoin, get in Bitcoin. And so here is another billionaire who's saying, hey, get into Bitcoin, right? So when people like this are talking to us in this way, we need to really take a step back and listen and maybe move on their actions. So I thought this was interesting. I saw the tweet because I follow him on Twitter. So I
hmm
saw the tweet and people talking about it. And I thought that this was a great topic for us to talk about because Robert Kiyosaki is someone that people really respect in the financial field because of what he's done. And if he's saying buy Bitcoin, who am I to say not, right? What do you think, Mr.
For,
Wong?
for sure. So a little bit about Robert Kiyosaki's. I first heard of his name and read his book during freshman year of college. which is not too long ago. I'm only 25 plus, right? So it's only several
Uh-huh.
years ago.
Uh-huh.
Um, but you know, I found the book to be so interesting. I actually finished reading it, you know, overnight, and I have went back and read it again and again. And that book really have stuck in my head. You know, stuff that he went over, it really changes your way of thinking about, you know, cash flow versus, you know, just having a bunch of like asset that is not producing you cash flow. A lot of people look at, you know, the house that they live in as an asset. Some people think that, you know, cars that they own as an asset. He completely actually turned it around, saying, "Hey, these are not asset. In fact, they're liabilities to you." So, um, so I took that to heart, right? And after I graduated from college, and Jen and I, we went into business together, and the business that we went into is real estate, and that's how we start building our real estate portfolio before we started VBIT Technologies. So to fast forward, you know, to hear and see Robert Kiyosaki believing in Bitcoins, you know, you got to take that seriously. You got to look into that if you're not already, you know, in Bitcoin or in VBIT technology. In fact, Gershom, I told my son, who is 12 years old, to, you know, read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So he has since, you know, read the book. So he's only 12 years old. So I want to give him a little bit of a head start, right? I didn't start reading until freshman of college. You know, I figure, you know, he'll benefit tremendously if he start, you know, reading it at a younger age. Because one of the things that we lack in America is financial educations. You know, a lot of us actually, a lot of our parents always say, "Hey, you know, go to school, you know, study hard, so you can go out there and get a job," right? But you know, have you noticed that even a lot of people who went to college, they lacking that basic financial management skills, you know, and that's really unfortunately kind of get us into the economy shape, you know, economic shape that we're in today. But without diverging it too far away from what we're talking about. So whenever Robert talks, I pay attention, I listen. So
As you should.
that's how much I respect. Yeah.
As you should. You're right, Jason. I remember when the book came out. I know I'm aging myself a little bit, but I was very young. But I remember the uproar for the simple fact that what you just said, he was not. I don't want to say the first person, but he was one of the first people that actually put forth the idea that having a house is not necessarily an asset; it's a
Not at all.
liability.
That's
and
right.
and and then when he through the book he explained why that is, and it opened so many eyes. At the same time, they was going against the grain.
That's right.
So yeah, absolutely, it was. So a person like this is a legend in my eyes. You know, someone who's that's a true maverick to take a topic that has been ingrained in our consciousness for so long and to come out and say, that's wrong. And here is why it's wrong. And here's the right way to think about it. That takes a lot of guts and confidence, right? But so when that book came out, man, it lit everyone on fire. The conversations around that book. And so you're right, Jason, to hear someone that come out and say, hey, you need to be in Bitcoin to save yourself. And the other thing I want to touch on is the fact that you're having Alex read the book. I mean, those are the
Yes.
things I like to hear, man. I mean, you know, because it's typical, you know, we don't really teach our kids
That's
the
right.
importance of financial management. And again, another topic you touch on in our schools. And, you know, I thought about this a lot, and I cannot come up with a good answer as to why we're not being taught financial literacy in school, right?
Hmm.
I don't know. So I'm thinking, okay, I know people like to call me conspiracy theorist, but is it done by design? because for something that important to not to be taught in school, whether it's high school or, you know, if you go to college, some courses you take financial course or whatnot, depending on your major, definitely you must take some financial courses, but it should be like a requirement. It shouldn't be an option based on on your major. It should be a requirement, right? So
Right.
can you imagine that we have a nation which is supposed to be the richest nation in the world,
Hmm.
and you can go through your entire schooling years and never go through a systematic, structured course on financial literacy? That's a
Yeah,
shame.
it,
And
it
so,
is.
why is that?
I, I I really don't know. Why our education system is designed that way. I really hope. I really think that we need to change it, so that can be better equipped to handle their personal finances. Too many people can't even balance their checkbooks.
Yeah, as
You
sad as
know,
that sounds, it's so true.
I'll tell you, us millennials were pretty lost in the sauce when it comes to taxes and stuff too. And you're never really taught how to do any of the grown-up financial stuff. You kind of just have to figure it out.
right?
Yeah.
And when my son Alex, who is 12, when he finished reading the book, I remember that weekend we were taking a trip. So the whole way he kept asking me, "Dad, what is cash flow? Dad, what is taxes? Dad,
That
what is
is
that?"
awesome. I love that. I
You know,
absolutely love that, man. That's awesome.
I don't need him to be an expert or to understand, what he everything that he read in a book, but I want him to start thinking,
There
right,
you
about
go.
all these stuff, because over the years he's going to come across a lot of these topics. Then he'll think back and say, "Oh, right, I read about that, and we talk about that, with my father, and I better pay attention to that stuff." Because here's another thing that he picked up on. He's like, why is it important to have good credit? You know,
Yeah.
you know that even at a 1% interest difference, when you go out there and you finance, on a house or investment property, over the years, when you're going to be paying so much more in interest expense compared to somebody who has a better credit than you do. So I'm so glad. I mean, that at his age, he start thinking about all these stuff in his head. So and he's mining bitcoins with us. So he's checking his Kabul wallet every day. Proud of him.
That is, I mean, like, you have no idea how much I
Yeah,
love that, man. That is so great.
yeah,
So not only are you planting the seeds, in his consciousness that he can pull from later on in life, but you're also giving him hands-on practical experience, especially with Bitcoin, having a Kabul wallet, logging into he's 12 years old. He's logging
yep.
into his Kabul wallet. He's seen his big, I mean, that
He's
warms my
he's he
heart. I gotta
says
be
it,
honest with you.
fluctuate up and down, and I
Yeah,
want him to start thinking not just as a you know general what you hear from school or from how you should grow up, get an education, get a job, and then go out, start a family, buy a single family home with 2-car garage, and start buying 2 cars, and you're gonna be stuck with power and power of debts for the next 30, 40 years. I want him to start thinking more like a contrarian. I mean, there are other alternatives,
yes.
right? And it's a matter of doing the right research, and then go with it.
I'm gonna say one last thing on this topic, and then we can move on. So my thought process is this: since we are a debt-based system, this is a debt-based system, right?
Mm.
Our government borrow money, right, and then we pay, and then pay back in interest. The principal will never get repaid, but they pay interest on it every year, and they tax. They get the interest they get from tax and so forth. Okay, I don't need to get into all that, but anyway, the fact that we're a debt-based system, is it intentional not to teach us financial literacy So the average person will always be in debt because that's how the system is supported. Now, if you figure it out, right, or if you figure it out for yourself and then pass it down to your younger generation, your seeds, your kids, then good for you. But if you don't figure it out, then that's kind of like what they're hoping for, because I find it difficult to believe that a nation like of ours don't see the importance of teaching our kids financial literacy unless they want it that way, because they need you to be in debt to support the system. It's just a thought. I could be completely wrong, but don't call me a conspiracy theorist. I'm just thinking out loud.
I wonder what percentage of people are actually financially literate, though, man. There's some really smart people out there. I almost think that the majority of people are financially illiterate. I'm probably financially illiterate. You know, like there's smart people with advanced degrees that just don't really care to know or know, you know, much about their money. And it's I think you're onto something, though, man.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's go to the second topic. This is gonna be a really good show today, by the way. So the next topic, Mark Cuban, right? So Mark Cuban, everyone knows who Mark Cuban is, and we've been talking about universal basic income for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that at some point we will see universal basic income in some way, shape, or form. There are a lot of different ideas out there. So he's making the argument that what he would like to see is the government send everyone a check for $1,000 every 2 weeks. Will that make a difference? Absolutely. I think in some people's lives, it will make a difference. So I think right now the argument to be had is, where do you come down on universal basic income? Because we are going to see it. It's going to happen in one way, shape, or form. So I'm interested to get a feedback, how you guys feel about this. Are you for it or are you against it? And if you are for it, why? For those of you guys who are watching, maybe you can drop a comment in the comment section if you're for it or not. But I also want to hear your thoughts on it, Mr. Wong, because I think it's going to happen. Are you for it? And if you're not for it, why not? And if you are for it, you know, how do you see it shaping up? I'm thinking we're going to see something like maybe $2,000 a month. I think we're going to see something like that, you know, as far as universal basic income. But this crisis that we're going through right now is going to force the authorities to implement some kind of universal basic income.
Well, I am for it. You know, to answer the question in short. Now, I think that when you have the idea of the universal income is to have that fixed amount, you know, sent to the individual so that they can make their own decisions on how and what best to spend it. You know, that would suit their lifestyle. You know, too often when we have when we have government administered programs, it is very restrictive, and you know, a lot of time because of these bureaucracies, actually, it really watered down the effectiveness of many of these intended programs. So I think universal income is absolutely one of the key components to get our economy, you know, give it a jump start. And it would also, you know, just because people are getting $2,000 a month or $1,000 a month, you know, it would also encourage people to go out there and work and maybe even start a, you know, new business, small business. Right. And I think it's a great idea. We need to really kickstart our economy. And I think, you know, by implementing a universal income to everyone that is eligible, you know, every citizens in America, for example, it would be a great start. It's going to help a lot of people and our economy as a result. So I'm for it.
You know what? Okay, so I'm going to put it out there. For a very long time, I was against it. But I feel like that was probably more of a knee-jerk reaction more than anything else. And so the more I think about it, I'm starting to lean towards for some kind of universal basic income. So let me share with you the thought process behind Mark Cuban, right? So he's saying, look, if we want to, just like you're saying, Jason, if we want to get the economy going to kind of like jumpstart the economy, then we need to put the money in the hands of the people.
That's right.
And by doing that, you will create consumer demand, which will in turn drive the economy. Because what he's saying right now is you put the money in the hands of the banks on the big corporation, and the money gets stuck up there, and it doesn't get to the people. So
Absolutely.
you're spinning your wheels, basically. All this money printing really doesn't help the economy, and it doesn't help who it's supposed to help, the little guy in the street, right?
Yep.
So it goes in the pockets of the banks, and the politicians and their bodies, their lobbyists and all that. That's where the money is at. It's not coming down. So give the money to the people, and then let them go out and spend it, and that will drive consumer demand and kickstart the economy, and do it from the bottom up, right? As opposed to trying to do it from the top down.
Yeah,
He's
right.
got a good argument. And the more, also, back to something you mentioned, I think if everyone have a universal basic income, something, we're not saying that, pay people six figures, but something to where their basic needs are met. And then that will free people up to be more creative. There are a lot of people right now who probably have some great ideas, maybe would like to get in some kind of business, we like to look down on the arts, but the arts are important. There are a lot of artists who would probably like to pursue their art career, in whatever shape or fashion. There are people who have some ideas that would like to pursue that and for as a business, but they can't because they're always in survival mode because they have to survive, they have to pay rent, they have to eat.
Exactly.
But if they have a if they have a base where they have a roof over their head, they have food on their table, then they can be more expressive, they can be more creative, and that will actually permeate out into a society and make us a more vibrant and productive society. Now, will there be some people who will take advantage of it? Absolutely. You're going to always have that. You cannot get rid of that. Human nature. But that's, I think, would be the minority. I think the majority of people would just like to have that little base, that little security, and then they can actually go on and be more productive and fruitful in a society, and then everyone benefits.
Yeah, I mean, Gershom, even right now with all these different stimulus programs that are coming from the top down, as I like the way how you describe it, are there bad corporations out there that are taking advantage of it? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Right? 100%. You can't eliminate that either. So, and I personally, I feel that it's less effective than going from the bottom up, right? Instead of going from the top down, which we have been doing, and it hasn't really shown the effectiveness. Too many people and are still waiting actually for their $1,200 stimulus checks, as I know. Some people that file for unemployment, they still have not received it yet. So
really a shame.
Why put people through that kind of bureaucracy when you can just as easily do that from the bottom up? Because when you put it in a very great way, because when people don't have to think about the day-to-day survival, right, they can have more time in thinking about how they can better themselves, and as a result, it would better our community, neighborhood, right, society, city, state, the country. So why not?
100%. Now, listen to this. And okay, confession, I was kind of like on that side. What I mean is this: many people are in the arena that says, hey, universal basic income is socialism, right? And can you make that argument? I guess you can, But the way it is right now, and this is what I think a lot of people are missing, the way it is right now, you have socialism for the elite. Because all this money printing, where's it going? To the elite, the banking system, big corporation. So people are okay with printing all this money and giving it to the banks and a big corporation, but they're not okay with giving a check to the guy on the street. They call that socialism. So what is that when all the money is printed and given to the guy at the top? What do you call that? It's definitely not capitalism. I know that. Mm-hmm. So we are okay with socialism for the big corporation, the banks, the rich, or whatever. But the guy in the street, let him starve. Don't give him anything. And to me, it's a revelation for me, because for a long time I was against universal basic income, things like that. But then the more I think about it, and the more I expose myself to different thought process and different arguments and different point of views. And that's what life is all about. You have to expose yourself to different opinion other than yours. Mm-hmm. And then you can flush things out. And maybe, some of the ideas that you have may not be entirely correct. So I'm leaning towards, a basic income for everyone. I think it'd be a good thing. So we'll see where it goes, but I do believe it's coming. Whether you are for it or against it, I think it's going to come in some way, shape, or form. And I think the environment that we're in right now is going to force it up on our hands to have something like that. So we'll see where it goes.
Too many people need it. Just a couple of days ago, our CEO and his wife started a fundraising for one of our members who are battling, some late stage cancer. Can you imagine, what these universal income can help, this particular member, right? I mean, she no longer have to worry about these just basic, money, and she can actually even take that money and buy herself a ticket to go to the state that she wants to go to get additional treatments. Just put so much more, financial stress out of her life that she doesn't need at this point. So yeah, please, let's get this started. I'm for it. I mean, let's try it. Actually, I'm reading on the chat room. Financial literacy are not taught by design, right? Some of our members are commenting on it. They're saying a lot of them are actually for the universal income.
Okay.
It gives people incentive to bridge the gaps, and also to start something that they might otherwise not able to. So I think these are all great comments.
100% agree. I agree 100%. So we'll see it. It's going to happen. And, I think when it happens, it's going to be, tremendously beneficial. And obviously, we're not going to see the full effect for a few years down the road. It won't be an immediate effect in terms of, how it's going to change our society and, I think in a positive way. And like I said, you're going to have those people who will, take the universal basic income. But if you're going to rely just on that for your well-being, then you're going to be in poverty, because it's not a thing that's going to be designed to make you wealthy. It's not going to give you a lavish lifestyle. It's just something to keep you off from being homeless in the street, to maybe help you have a roof over your head, food on the table, to give you a chance to contribute in a better way to our society. So yes, I'm for it.
Awesome.
All right. Next topic. So you guys know that, we like to bring you guys these interviews that we come across that we find to be enlightening in a number of ways. And so we have another interview for you guys today. I think it's very enlightening. So a couple of things real quick. Many podcasts that I listen to and articles that I read and newsletter that I subscribe to, doesn't get permeated on the mainstream. And so when I come across something that, like this interview right here, this is not something that you're going to hear on CNN or Fox or MSNBC, none of those mainstream news outlets. All right, this information is just not out there. So, but this information is going to be very powerful for everyone. And when you listen to it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So, James, if you don't mind, bring it up. I think I have it marked when I send it over to start at 18 minutes and 10 seconds. And we're going to end it at 27:10. So, they want 10 minutes, 9 minutes long, but very informative interview. I think you guys will enjoy it. And so, whenever you're ready, James, you can go ahead and put it up. Yeah, no, the one with X22 report. Yeah. 18 minutes and 10 seconds, and then stop it at 27:10. The one that says Bob Kodler. You want to talk about? Yeah.
Really well.
Great. I'll put all the links at the bottom of the video to make it easier for people to just go right over to your site and they can take a look at it. I wanted to ask you about the Fed because there were a couple of articles like in Bloomberg and other financial outlets saying that the Fed now is moving into the Treasury. And, you know, the Fed used to be completely independent, and the mainstream media, certain politicians said, no, the Fed has to stay independent. But now if the Fed is moving into the Treasury, the Fed is no longer independent. It's taking their orders from Mnuchin, who is probably taking orders from Trump. Why do you think they decided to move the Fed into the Treasury?
Yeah, so, my view is that they hit the zero bound. And so really monetary policy is really irrelevant. Now it's all fiscal policy. So when you're at 0% interest, and actually you heard Powell on Sunday on the 60 Minutes, and you heard Mnuchin talking about it as well. Who cares if you have $3 trillion deficit or $6 trillion deficit? The interest only payment is zero. So
True.
So basically load up, and so the Fed is really, they really have only one purpose left, is to buy up all the assets that are being created by the federal government. And make no mistake, we're going to hem and haw around state pensions and state government prolificacy, and the Democrats are going to get an easy deal. They're going to buy up all that debt too. And the reason being is they're trying to get through the next 10 or 12 years with the pension, basically that snake bulge of people that are going to sell out their pensions and their health care. And you heard Powell said, look, they can pay this back over decades. I think the plan is, once the demographics turn back up in terms of average age, average age going down actually, is then they're going to then try to claw back what they've done. But interest rates aren't going up ever, unless they want a bankruptcy. And so that's why I think they did what they did. They won't call it moving into the Treasury. They're nominally, independent, but the Fed has no choice. If they raise interest rates now, Dave, is that people would have those people hanging from lampposts, because it would basically bankrupt just about every public company, because they're all running negative cash flows. And so if they start raising a short-term paper, is those companies will all go bust. So they trapped themselves. And hey, look, if I can't get rid of the Fed, I'm happy that it's trapped inside of an organization that at least has to be elected by the voters every 4 years.
Now, just a couple days ago, Trump was tweeting out that he would like negative interest rates. How would that affect everything today if they actually drop this into negative territory? I know Europe, they're in negative territory, Japan. If we move into negative territory, how would this affect the country, the market?
That's an interesting question, because we're a reserve currency, and I've heard from other people that know more about this than I do that said that reserve currencies really can't go negative, but let's assume that they can. All that is a tax on bank deposits. So every company in the United States that has a bank deposit, for like payroll or working capital or things of that nature are going to have to pay a tax to be in the banking system. And so it's a way to tax a different group of people than trying to tax, i.e. the wealthy, or try to tax, different individuals, because it's a tax that doesn't require a voter. The only vote you get is to move your money, as much as your money, out of the banking system as possible. And that's why they keep talking about maybe we have to go to a digital coin, and not talking about a crypto coin, which is, basically, not owned, it's decentralized, but a digital coin run by the Fed, where they could trap everybody into an electronic system where you can't escape it. And so that would be interesting. I think gold and silver would go through the freaking moon, and probably would support, Bitcoin quite a bit, because that's the only last places where you can get out of the banking system and hold an asset.
It's very interesting while you were talking about this with the negative interest rates and a tax on the bank. I was thinking, would this be a move to move us away from the dollar and the way the banking system is set up today? Because, if it's a tax on the banking system and your deposits in the bank, this forces people to, move out of the banks, because why would you want to pay someone to hold your money? It makes no sense. Usually you earn money on top of yours with interest. Do you think this is the beginning stages of moving us away from the system that we're in today into something completely different?
Yeah, I think eventually, if they go negative, it's natural that the currencies won't be able to survive. I think the United States, over the short-term period of time, is going to be a beneficiary. I think we're going to get a really good look at how it's going to work in Europe and in Japan before we get to see what it's going to look like in the United States. So it may be enough to scare us into not doing it. But I think right now we're the beneficiary of a lot of money flowing out of those countries. And I think they're not more aggressive, because people can basically move their money out of euros into U.S. banks and sidestep. But if the United States go with it, and I think that's Trump's biggest complaint. He's like, we're the safest place in the world, and we have the highest interest rates in the world. But part of that's the burden of being a reserve currency. Look, I don't mind 0% if they get my mortgage down too. But they're creating a spread for the banks there that I don't think the banks are quite ready to give that up. But somebody said we'll be forced into it at some point, so we'll just have to see.
Where do you think this economy is going? Since everything's opening up now, Trump says, yes, we might have a bad quarter this time, but he's going to see it improve in the third and the fourth. Do you think it's possible to get the system back up and running and actually get out of this recession that was man-made?
Yeah, look, I just think because they're going to throw whatever it takes money at this. So we're not going to, we're not having a 1929 style depression. People just need to get that out of their head. Is that we're going to have some sort of combination that looks a lot like, eventually, like the 70s, from 67 to 82, where they're going to keep the stock market from collapsing, but the stock market's not going to go anywhere. You're going to see commodities like precious metals and I don't know oil anymore, because we can stick a straw in the ground anywhere and oil's coming up. But you're going to see precious metal prices go higher. You'll see cryptocurrency prices likely to go higher. And then eventually you're going to see wages go higher. You have to remember, we have a demographic situation where more people are retiring than entering the workforce. And I think now with the mood in the country, I think this whole mood of let's import cheap labor is probably dead. So I think you're going to see wages rise too. So it's going to look a lot like the 70s. The only bad thing is I think it's going to be splotchy, Dave. I think you're going to see inner cities that are going to be hollowed out. Even if you're the best run center city in the world, I think people now are going to work from home. I don't think people want to live in the cities anymore after they saw what happened in New York City. And I think you're going to see some of that. I don't think people are going to want to live in Michigan or Washington State with those crazy governors and what they've done. And so I think you're going to see pockets of what I would call poverty, like Appalachian type poverty. And then you're going to see other parts like, the Sun Belt that's going to do extremely well. And I think even in California, I think California is going to sidestep. The weather's just too nice here. for it to really get damaged too badly. So I think that's what we're going to see, Dave. So it's going to be really interesting. I don't think we're going to have a depression like you're going to see. The Fed simply are not going to allow the stock market to crash. They may let it go down some, let it breathe in and out, but there's no way we're going to get an 87% reduction because they'll simply buy 87% more assets. It just may not go anywhere, and people just lose interest in it over time. But as a trader, I don't care. As long as it moves up and down, you can make money.
Bob, thank you very much for being on the X22 Report Spotlight. Once again, how can people see your work and join up to your trading system?
Yeah, so go to tradelikeagenius.com or tradegeniusacademy.com, and you can chat with us. You can call us. You can email us, and we'd be happy to set you up on one of the bundles. So either, you're beginner or
Okay, awesome. So so that podcast is one of the podcasts I kind of subscribe to. I listen to it a lot. You always have interesting guests on there with different perspective. And so I was watching this one a couple of days ago, and I said, I think I want to share this with my people. This guy, Bob Caudill, I listen to him all the time, different podcasts as well. And there's some interesting things he said there that I thought you guys would like to hear. For example, and I've been saying this for a while, and I know you guys think I'm crazy, we are going to see a negative interest rate. I mean, I don't care what anybody says, it's going to happen. And the fact that they're talking about it so much now, maybe even more solidify in my belief that we will see negative interest rate. Japan has been negative interest rate for years, maybe even decades. The European Union have been negative interest rate. Is going to come to the U.S. Now, what kind of effect it's going to have, on our industry? That's the thing. And he made a very interesting point. If they have negative interest rate, so take, for example, little mom and pop operation, right? So if you have your money in the bank that you need to make payroll, but the bank is going to charge you to have your money in the bank. I mean, how does a capitalistic society survive with negative rates? So we have some problems. Will they do negative rates? I think they will. I think they're going to take their chance with it and kind of see what happens. But I think it's going to be a bad thing when they decide to implement negative interest rates. But I thought the interview was interesting. I hope you guys thought so too. And I would like to get some feedback. What are your thoughts, Mr. Wong?
Well, I don't think they're going to do anything during this election year. Maybe afterward. I do see there might be a small chance that they would implement that. But given the fact that Japan has been doing it for, like you say, almost over a decade now, actually, and Europe has started doing it, and it has not been good to the economy. So I don't know. I think they're gonna be very cautious about it. I think they're still studying, the effects on these two of the biggest economies, and to see what really can drive, the U.S. economy if we do move into the negative interest rate, situation. So.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
I think, so he said the president said this, right? And he's been saying this ever since he came into office. For the U.S. to be the number one economy, supposedly, right? And the way, and I know most of you guys know that the way the government function is, number one, through tax, and number two, they borrow the money. So when they borrow the money, they're not paying back the interest. I mean, the principal. They're paying the interest every year. So what he's saying is, hey, all these guys have negative rates to where they're not paying anything on their loan, on the money that they're borrowing. We have the best economy. We're the best rated economy in the world. Why are we paying so much on the money that we're borrowing? So that's why he's been screaming, hey, we need negative rates. So he's thinking, maybe it's short-term thinking, but his thought process is, if we have the best economy and we're the best rated economy, why are we paying so much in interest and those guys are paying nothing? And that's the argument that he's coming with. It's been out there for a while, and he may win the argument. I'm not saying that they want him to win the argument, but he may win the argument because it's a very strong argument. Why are we paying so much every year and these other guys are not paying anything? So that's a very strong argument. We'll see if it plays out. But I do believe that at some point we're going to see it, as bad as it may be for the economy. And you're right. I don't think we're going to see any major move this year before the election. But after the election, we may end up seeing negative interest rate. And I think it's going to be bad. Just imagine that if you have money in the bank, rather than the bank paying you an interest to have your money in the bank, you got to pay the bank to have your money in the bank. It doesn't make any sense. But they're going to do it. I'm telling you, they're going to do it. But anyway, we'll see.
Well, I think the author said that actually, if they do move over to the negative interest rate, it might be a good thing for cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoins, right? I mean, it would be an incentive for people to hold it in other forms of asset as opposed to the US dollars.
100%. And that's the other side of this argument. Yes.
Yeah. Or you're just gonna see people putting more money and stashing more money under their mattresses. That's all.
Okay. Now that brings up another point I've been saying is that the reason why we will see a US digital currency is because if the currency is digital, there is no money to take out and put on your mattress. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to see them do a push for a digital currency and then go negative rates. Because once the currency is digital and they go negative, there's nothing you can do. You're trapped in the banking system. You can't take your money out. So whatever negative rates that they implement, you just got to suck it up. Because normally, if your money is in a bank and they tell you got to pay the bank to have your money in the bank, you take your money out and put it on your mattress, like you said. But if you can't take the money out because it's digital, then you're stuck. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see. Interesting times we're living in, my friend. So we're coming towards the end. We have one more thing to talk about, then we're going to wrap it up. So Grayscale, right? Grayscale has bought up 1/3 of all the Bitcoin that has been mined since the beginning of the year. And for those of you or us that may not be familiar with who Grayscale is, it's a large fund that does investment for high net worth client. And they're one of the very first ones to really came out in terms of a high profile organization that came out and said that, hey, you know what, Bitcoin is better than gold. And when they, when they came out with that, people went nuts, man. I mean, people didn't like it. The old school people who are all about gold didn't like it at all. The gold bugs didn't like it, but they were very bold about it. So at the end, I'm gonna play you guys 2 commercials. I thought they're really, really funny. You guys don't like this commercial if you haven't seen them yet. But when they first came out with the idea that, hey, you know what, you should actually be going into Bitcoin, not gold, and they started a big controversy and people didn't like it. But you know what I wanted to share with you guys? So they are buying up 1/3 of all the Bitcoin that's mined since the year began, right? And it goes to show you the way our company is structured, right? We're one of the few companies. There are other mining companies out there that may have some kind of membership, but most of these mining companies are selling their Bitcoins to these organizations. But we're one of the very few organizations that actually allow people to come in and be able to mine Bitcoin and keep for themselves, as opposed to just mining Bitcoin and selling it to these big organizations. So guys, I'm telling you, the way our company is set up, you're very fortunate to be a part of what we're doing, because otherwise we just mine Bitcoin and sell it to these guys. But no, we're designed to where the average guy on the street, the average person on the street can actually come in and get involved with us and also become a Bitcoin miner and hold on to their Bitcoin that they mine. But what do you think, Mr. Wong, about Grayscale buying up approximately 1/3 of all the Bitcoin that's mined so far this year?
it goes to show that what we have been advocating for, right? Hold the Bitcoin for the long term, because in our opinions that it's going to go up in the long term. So right now, at the current price, it's a good time to start accumulating Bitcoins for the long term. If it does in fact go up to some of these predictions, like $75,000, like Robert Kiyosaki was saying, it's going to do a lot of goods for the average folks. We're not saying, we're never advocated to put all of your eggs in one basket, right? Put a small amount into one of our mining packages, right? 2%, for example, and just let it accumulate and keep your Bitcoins for the long term. And I am, a believer. I do long Bitcoin, so and I'm holding on to all the Bitcoins that I mine. And so I think in the long run, it's gonna be a great hedge against traditional asset class.
Yeah.
So,
I agree, and it's all about diversifying your portfolio, right?
for sure.
Yeah, and look, so Grayscale, they're pretty much are encouraging their clients to be more heavily weighted in Bitcoin as opposed to precious metal, and and as I said before, this is no disrespect to gold, because I love gold, and gold have a 6,000-year record. But the thing is, gold is not as hard in terms of hard money as Bitcoin, because we know there's only 21 million Bitcoin ever. But we really don't know how much gold is in the world, and we don't know if they will find more pockets of gold, right? More gold deposit. Who knows? So it's not as hard as it needs to be. And gold has failed in terms of as backing a currency many, many times over the years. That's why we're not on gold right now. We were on gold up until 1971, when President Nixon took us off of gold standards. So if gold works so well, why aren't we on a gold standard? In 1933, I think it was, the government actually confiscated gold from the people. How many guys even know that? With the government, it was illegal to own gold in 1933. I think it was 1933. It was literally illegal. You had to turn your gold in. And then once they get it in, they pay you I think $20-something, and then they reprice it to $30-something right away. So it's not the safest of asset. And one of the reasons why gold had dominated for so long is because we didn't have anything like Bitcoin. And that's the reason when these multi-billionaires and these hedge funds, and once you really start to look into Bitcoin and see that it's all about math, and you can't fudge it. There it is. And a lot of our members, if you haven't done so yet, really take the time to understand this thing called Bitcoin. Go back, and if you haven't done so yet, go back and read the white paper, the Satoshi white paper, and get to understand, what this thing is all about. It's not just, okay, get some Bitcoin today and I'll be rich tomorrow. Yes, it's going to make you rich. I truly believe that. But you also need to understand why it's here and how it functions. That's very, very important. So let's watch 2 quick commercials. They're very short. One is 39 seconds. The other one is I think maybe 6 to 9 seconds. But they're very funny. And hey, look, don't take it personal. This is not a diss on gold. We love gold. But I think the commercials are very funny. And these commercials, when Grayscale come out and, started to promote gold as a better asset as far as a store of value against gold, this is the commercials that they were running, and people didn't like it. The gold bugs didn't like it at all. So let's take a look.
Why did you invest in gold? Are you living in the past? In a digital world, gold shouldn't weigh down your portfolio. You see where things are going. Digital currencies like Bitcoin are the future. They're secure, borderless, and unlike gold, they actually have utility. Leave the pack behind. It's time to drop gold. Go digital. Go Grayscale.
Right. Thank you for that, Bob. But I think it's time we go with GBTC. It's Bitcoin exposure through a traditional investment account. Nice rock.
It's time to drop gold. Go digital. Go Grayscale.
All right. So I thought those commercials were funny. That's why I wanted us to kind of play them. I'm not sure how many of you guys have seen those commercials before, but they came out a while back when Grayscale first started to promote the idea that people should be getting into Bitcoin and not necessarily getting into gold. And people didn't like it at all. The gold bugs, they went crazy. They went nuts. Anyway, guys, that kind of brings us towards the wrap up. Are there any questions out there in the chat, James, like Facebook or YouTube?
No, but we got a minute or two if anybody has anything on their mind.
Yeah, any questions, guys? You guys want to put out there? Yeah, let us talk about it.
Gershom, when Bitcoin was first created back in 2008, it might be a novel idea. There's for people to kind of really get behind, the Bitcoin's wagon. It really takes a lot of guts, right? Because there's so many pieces that has to fall in place in order for this thing to work. Now, fast forward to 2020, Bitcoin is here to stay because you have some of these really, really smart people that are behind Bitcoins. And not only that, they were actually putting their real asset behind it, right? So there's something to be said about that, guys. I can't advocate that enough. I mean, I personally believe that it is to diversify your portfolios. Listen to the experts. Like what they're saying, put a small percentage of what you can afford into Bitcoin. But before you do that, go, like Gershom said, go read the white paper and understand what Bitcoin is all about and how it operates.
Absolutely. I second that, guys. I really second that. I couldn't say it better, Mr. Wong. All right. I think we're at the end. If there are no questions, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Is there anything else you want to say, Mr. Wong or James? You guys have some parting words for the fans out there?
I just wanted to say I think there's a good amount of people watching, man, and every week you guys find such great articles. I really mean that. I always learn something just hearing you guys talking, and I appreciate the effort. Nice.
And we appreciate you, man. Thanks a lot. And we're happy to do it. I know I love doing it. Mr. Wong loved doing it. Mr. God, when he's here on Monday, our CEO is kind of busy right now, but he loves to do it too. So yeah, we love doing these live streams. Hopefully they are making a difference in everyone's lives, and hope you guys are finding it to be informative and finding them useful. And like we said before, if you have something that you want us to talk about, drop it in a Telegram group. We bring it up if you have a topic or come across something you thought we're interested that the rest of us want to know. Let us know. We'll bring it up. We'll talk about it. But yeah, thanks for watching as always. We really appreciate you guys. Go ahead, Mr. Wong.
Yep. Last but not least, happy Memorial Day weekend, guys, and thank you for all the military personnel that are out there and keeping our country safe and functioning. So,
absolutely. Yes, I'm one of those guys, by the way.
That's right. And so is James.
Yes.
So, thank you guys for your service.
Absolutely. All right, guys. You guys have yourself a wonderful holiday weekend. You guys take care of each other. Take care of yourselves. We love you guys. We appreciate each and every one of you. So for those of you out there who are listening right now, if you're not aware of our company, we are VBit Technologies. We're a technology company that does Bitcoin mining. If you want to know more about us, if someone invites you to this live stream, reach out to them. If not, you can always go to our website, vbitmining.com. You can send us an email at support@vbittech.com, okay? Have a great weekend, guys, and we'll see you all on Monday. You guys take care of yourselves.